After hearing Michael Gove in the House of Commons yesterday, I have to be really frank in this video this time. So whoever said I'm biased or whatever, now you can go, because I will really tell you what I think about that, what he said yesterday. He either already started lying from his second sentence on, or he is incompetent and clueless, or both. He said once again the UK wants a Canada-style agreement. If they can't have that, they will leave with an Australia-style agreement. I'll come to the Australia part a bit later, because there's also a very hilarious point about that he said that, but I'll start with Canada. Besides the fact that the publication of the UK government about the 12 deals they want are still unchanged and prove that they want much more than CETA, the Canada-EU deal, even a first grader can know that it is impossible to negotiate a deal between the UK and the EU in just 11 months on that basis. And the link to what the UK government wants, I'll put in the description again. And I'm going to tell you once again why that is. CETA is a new trade agreement between the EU and Canada. Yes, it cuts tariffs and makes it easier to export goods and services, benefiting people and businesses in both the EU and Canada. CETA entered into force provisionally on September 21st, 2017, meaning most of the agreement now applies. It cuts tariffs and makes it easier to export goods and services, benefiting people and businesses alike. As I said, it cuts tariffs, but it does not remove them completely. It took 5 years to negotiate and is quite complicated. Far more complicated and time-consuming as some Brexiteers, and among them obviously Michael Gove, might believe or pretend. How do you want to do that in just 11 months? And don't come with a copy and paste the Canada deal stuff. The basis for this deal was completely different than that between the UK and the EU would have to be. Completely different goods and services to a completely different extent were imported. CETA removes Canadian customs duties and opens up the Canadian market to European food and drinks products. Yes, it removes tariffs on EU food exports from day one on chocolate, bread, etc. It removes or manages barriers to exporting drinks from day one as well. CETA protects products as well, such as beef, pork, sweet corn, with limited tariff-free quotas. Limited. Poultry and eggs by not opening its market. Promoting and protecting Europe's flagship food and drink products in countries outside the EU is a top priority for CETA, as for any EU trade deal. CETA allows 143 European products with a status of geographical indications to be sold in Canada. That gives them a similar level of protection from imitations as EU law does. But other goods are not included. The protected GIs include that it guarantees access to Canada's large public procurement market. It creates new opportunities for EU suppliers to bid for provincial and municipal contracts. It encourages more investment between the EU and Canada in both directions. It improves the protection in Canada of intellectual property owned by EU individuals or companies. It sets out strong legally binding commitments on environmental protection and respect for labour rights. If the UK wanted a Canada-style deal, why are they fighting exactly these 2 points as one of the breaking points in the current negotiations with the EU? CETA helps EU small firms export more through reduced trade barriers, tariff elimination, simplified customs procedures, and more compatible technical requirements. Reduced trade barriers, not remove all trade barriers. And once again, negotiated one by one. How do you want to do that in 11 months? And you still heard that customs procedures are still there. So your 7,000 trucks, or if you listen to yesterday, your 6,500 trucks are still there at the border. CETA removes Canadian custom duties on key EU manufacturing exports from day one. It opens up the Canadian market in the following industries: financial service, postal and courier, telecommunications, and transport professional services. But other services are not included, so even services were negotiated one by one. How do you want to do that in 11 months? CETA provides a framework for the EU and Canada to recognize each other's qualifications in certain regulated professions: accountants, architects, engineers, lawyers. But other professions are not included, so even qualifications were negotiated one by one. How do you want to do that in just 11 months? And there are CETA's 6 essential safeguards. Sensitive economic sectors are protected. The EU's right to regulate is protected. Public services are protected. The EU's ability to set higher standards, such as for the environment or food safety, is guaranteed. The precautionary principle is upheld. Promoting trade in a way what upholds or raises environmental or labor standards is guaranteed. Also, investment was part of the Commission's negotiating mandate. EU governments wanted the Commission to improve EU investors' access to the Canadian market and to negotiate rules to promote and protect EU investors. So CETA ensures protection for investment while enshrining governments' right to regulate in the public interest, including when such regulations affect a foreign investment. The EU has replaced the old form of investor-state dispute settlement in many existing trade agreements with a new improved investment court system. And now many will say, yeah, but it's not the ECJ. Yeah, but there are many fields, especially security and stuff like that, which are to be included in a deal with the UK, which are not part of the Canada deal. Or at least not to that extent. Canada does not have complete access to the Schengen data. The features of the new system will include professional independent judge bound by a strict code of conduct, hearings held in public and published documents relating to cases, clearly specified grounds on which an investor can challenge a state. The EU and Canada will continue to work together to develop the ICs in line with the commitments they made in the joint interpretive instrument and the agreement itself. For sensitive products such as poultry and eggs, CETA does not open either side's market. For beef, pork and sweet corn, the EU has offered limited tariff-free quotas. Once again, you see, tariffs and quotas for good were negotiated one by one. So how do you want to do that in just 11 months? EU governments fully retain the right to keep public services public and decide for themselves, for example, how they want healthcare or education delivered. EU law protects EU governments' right to act to protect human, animal or plant health or the environment in the face of a perceived risk, even when scientific analysis is not conclusive. EU law, which EU trade agreements must respect, enshrines this principle. CETA also refers to the right to regulate and to principles underlying the regulatory regime of each party. CETA safeguards the EU's right to apply our own standards to all goods and services sold in Europe. All imports from Canada have to meet EU rules on technical standards, consumer safety, environmental protection, animal and plant health, food safety and GMOs. And our lawmakers will continue to make such rules. CETA allows us to set higher standards and levels for protection, for product and food safety, labor or the environment if we want to. The deal explicitly protects EU governments' right to regulate in these and other areas. The Trade and Sustainable Development chapter includes those safeguards. CETA prevents the risk of a race to the bottom. Yeah, and that's one of the alleged aims of the UK government, to start a race to the bottom in environmental or labour standards. And CETA prevents governments from allowing exceptions to or not enforcing them their domestic laws as a way to encourage trade and investment. And again, the UK blocks all these points I mentioned in their talks with the EU. So what Canada-style deal are they talking about all the time? In fact, CETA promotes practices such as corporate social responsibility and transparency in business. CETA is a progressive trade agreement. It has some of the strongest commitments ever included in a trade deal to promote labor rights, environmental protection, and sustainable development. CETA integrates the EU's and Canada's commitments to apply international rules on workers' rights, environmental protection, and climate action. And again, most of these once again are points the UK blocks in their talks with the EU. So what Canada-style deal are they talking about all the time that they want? And these obligations are binding with the same legal value as any other provision. CETA commits the EU and Canada to ratifying and effectively implementing the fundamental conventions of the International Labour Organization. CETA includes commitments on the sustainable management of forests, fisheries, and aquaculture. In CETA, the EU and Canada also pledge to cooperate on trade-related environmental and labor rights, effectively implement all ratified multilateral environmental agreements, which would now include the Paris Climate Accord. And before the cherry-picking commentators are coming again, Canada has no fishery agreement like the EU ones from the UK. First of all, they're not neighbors. Second of all, Canada does not have access in several cases as high as the UK ones. And they're not selling £30 billion worth of services in the EU. And there are many other points, but I'm really tired of this fisheries nonsense. Always brought up this one point because it's a symbol for all the Brexiteers that are talking about this since Farage brought it up. It's a smokescreen. But the EU and Canada have also agreed to promote initiatives focused on corporate social responsibility and accountability, eco-labeling, fair trade, energy efficiency, and the use of climate-friendly technologies, recycling, and environmentally friendly goods and services. In CETA, both sides also agree that more trade and investment should not be at the expense of environmental protection and labor rights. Labor rights? On the contrary, the EU and Canada are committed to ensuring that CETA helps ensure that economic growth, social development, and environmental protection go hand in hand. CETA gives a strong role to the EU and Canadian civil society groups in implementing the commitments made in the agreement. These commitments are enforceable with a fully transparent, mandatory, time-bound procedure for resolving concerns that involves governments, an independent panel of experts, civil society, and the International Labour Organization. And the agreement includes an open review clause. This allows both sides to examine how effectively they are putting their pledges into practice and revisit the way they enforce their implementations if need be. And now let's finally talk about Australia. Australia does not have a free trade agreement with the EU. Yes, right. But it does have agreements with the EU on things the UK has no agreements on when they walk away now. They have mutual recognition agreements with the EU on fields like designating authorities, medical products, batch certification, inspection services, and so on. The UK does not have that. And if they just walk away now, it will not even be on Australian terms. The Australia deal, yeah, the quote that's often used these days. And by the way, even Australia is not happy about the Australian style deal. They just had their very productive 8th round of negotiations on an FTA with the European Union. And this time, especially for my loyal followers, you had to go through this rant, but I really can't stand some of this nonsense anymore. But if you nevertheless now want to know more about European or global politics, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you in the end screen. And if you're new and not too surprised of this video, there's your chance to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!